Hey everybody, it's Glenn back in this video with the third part of Wolverine Action Figure Evolution. If you're just tuning in now, then click a video to catch up on part 1 and part 2, then join me back here. So in the previous part we looked at X-Men movie Wolverine figures as they went from the not being particularly good with the first movie to the X-Men 2 figures looking like something you'd almost be proud enough to stand atop your display shelf. Well, that change between the release of those two movies and their respective action figure lines is because of 2002's Marvel Legends. It's easy to take for granted the sculpt and articulation of today's action figures, but the action figures of today do owe some debt to the giant leap made by Marvel Legends. Since Star Wars popularized action figures in the 1970s, not much changed about action figures in the decades that followed. So solidly in the mold of Star Wars action figures, the first Wolverine figure we looked at in part 1 from 1984's Secret Wars just had 5 points of articulation, and while in the years that followed articulation of action figures did creep very slowly up, but with Marvel Legends, Action Figure Evolution took a giant leap, introducing a dizzying amount of articulation, creating a superposability that completely changed the way we collect and display action figures. The first Marvel Legends Wolverine came in the 3rd series, and as the Marvel Legends name suggests, it's Wolverine rendered in probably his most legendary costume. Now, I'm not by any means saying this figure holds up, and it's best to compare it to every other figure in parts 1 and 2 that we've looked at, and less to the Marvel Legends we have today. That way you get a much better perspective of the giant step being taken here. At the time, adding to the fever of collectors was the unmasked chase variant, so named as the variants were often produced in a lesser quantity, causing collectors to chase them down. But before the year was out, a 3rd version of this figure came in the Marvel Legends X-Men box set, also unmasked, but in my opinion with a much more superior head sculpt, embodying a more lifelike rendering, yet still exhibiting Wolverine's signature expression of unbridled rage. The following year, in 2004, Marvel Legends Series 6 gave us brown costume Wolverine. Compared to the previous one, it nailed not only the comic book proportions of the character, but also the overall comic essence. In fact, now a decade on from its release, many consider it to still be the best Wolverine action figure. This was sculpted by Dave Cortez, and looking at it, it has the feeling of a sculptor investing in the character, loving what they do and not just cashing a paycheck. Towards the end of 2004, Marvel Legends Series 7 included Weapon X, Wolverine as he appeared during the experiment which grafted indestructible adamantium to his skeleton. So it did capture an important moment in the character's history, but this is probably not the one you'd pick up if you're looking for just a general Wolverine action figure. And perhaps it's more one for big fans of the character and Marvel Legends completists. It comes with a second interchangeable head. It also comes with a display base, well, more a backdrop, a tech tank with dangling cables that can attach to any of the plugs on Wolverine's chest or back. The first Marvel Legends Wolverine of 2005 came in Series 11 with Days of Future Past Wolverine. Think less Hugh Jackman descending from the Blackbird jet, chomping on a cigar and wearing a cool stealth body armor, and think more skin-tight green trousers and a rubber condom jacket that inhibits posing. Based on that storyline's art, it's a future Wolverine whose aging is betrayed by the Reed Richards grey streaks of hair. In comparison, the variant has a younger head sculpt presenting a more modern Wolverine, and other than that and the deco, it is exactly the same, but for a cowboy hat it comes with. Series 11 was dubbed Legendary Riders, owing to the rideable accessories each figure came with, and it's no surprise that Wolverine came with his motorcycle. Plus the motorbikes reflect the figures themselves in that the older Wolverine's bike has more of an aged, rusty deco, whereas modern Wolverine's is more vibrant in colour. At the very end of 2005 came the Apocalypse Build-A-Figure wave, that's Series 12 of Toy Biz's Marvel Legends for those keeping count. It gave us Wolverine as he appeared in the pages of Astonishing X-Men, written by Joss Whedon, yep, he of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Avengers movie fame. But the look of this figure owes its debt to the artist for that series, John Cassaday. Essentially the tiger stripe costume with a few tweaks to modernise it, and for the most part this is the design that's remained into current times. An unmasked variant was also released, and in my opinion, if you're looking for the best unmasked Wolverine head sculpt, then my friends, you may well just be looking at it. The success of Marvel Legends led to both a spin-off 3 3/4 inch and 12-inch action figure lines. The 12-inch line went under the name of Marvel Legends Icons, and here we see that line's Wolverine. Released in 2006 following the 6-inch Astonishing X-Men Wolverine, and if not in fact a scaled up version of that very figure, it's certainly inspired by the same comic artwork. 2006 saw the release of the Marvel Legends Giant Man Build-A-Figure series, my favourite bath to this very day. It was a Walmart exclusive, or if you're in the UK like me, was exclusive to Woolworths. Remember them? That series gave us a second Weapon X, but this one is Wolverine in the Age of Apocalypse, the alternate reality where Apocalypse rules. In that continuity, his hand has been cut off by Cyclops, hence the metal stump. Perhaps just by coincidence, but 2006, the year this one was release, marked the 10-year anniversary since the 1996 release of the pre-Legends version of AOA Wolverine. What a difference 10 years makes, hey? Plus this series also include a burned face variant, which to me looks less like a burnt face and more like your toddler brother or sister or dog got hold of it and chewed it. Now well into our third part, and over 2 decades and countless Wolverine figures, we get what I'm sure is the first appearance Wolverine. That is Wolverine as he first appeared in his debut in The Incredible Hulk 181 from way back in November 1974. But first appearance Wolverine came in the Marvel Legends Face-Off 2-pack with not the Hulk, but with who would over the years become his most notable nemesis, Sabretooth. This second series of Face-Off 2-packs were released in late 2006 and were the last Marvel Legends released by Toy Biz before Toy Biz lost the license to make Marvel action figures. But before we venture beyond Toy Biz, I don't want to create the false impression that the inception of Marvel Legends created a utopia for adult collectors void of the kind of toy that only made sense to the logic of a 4-year-old, as in reality Toy Biz kept a finger in each pie. There were those more targeted at the adult collectors such as Marvel Legends, and then there were those a lot less targeted at the adult collector, to say the least. And what better illustration of the latter than the launch and grab claw Wolverine from 2005 Spider-Man and Friends line. A forerunner of Marvel Superhero Squad, but with articulation and much chunkier proportions. Oh, just look at this little guy. The likeness filtered through a lens of cuteness, so the angry expression of rage we often get with Wolverine figures gives way to a wide-eyed, smiling expression. But what a strange twist seeing a character who has spent decades hacking, slicing and dicing his way to clocking up likely the biggest body count in all of comics, now marketed to preschool age children. And with the child-friendly bluntness of these claws, this Wolverine's slicing days are over. Now moving on and branching out, and with Transformers long being a successful toy staple, I guess it seemed only natural that Toy Biz 2 would want a bite of that transforming toy pie. And so Marvel Shapeshifters was born, a line of Marvel's most popular characters that shapeshift. It's a line perhaps best known for its Punisher that in shapeshifting into a gun looks like this mid-shift. Back to Wolverine, and he shapeshifts, no doubt with some penis envy of the Punisher, into a wolf. Amusingly, later in a strange twist when Hasbro, the makers of actual Transformers, acquired the Marvel toy license from Toy Biz, they couldn't resist giving us actual Marvel Transformers now, could they? Then, striking a happy medium between the playability that would make any kid want to pick up the likes of a Marvel Shapeshifters and the superposability and comic accurate sculpts of Marvel Legends was 2004's X-Men Classics. The first leaping straight from the pages of Grant Morrison's new X-Men, albeit as a reuse of the Marvel Legends legendary Rider's Wolverine body, then Tiger Stripe Wolverine, a pretty faithful rendition of what I believe is Wolverine's most iconic costume, yet compromised somewhat by the slash attack action. For that we fit this dirty great big handle into his back, basically doing what many a Wolverine action figure has done since even the earliest days, but with a lot less subtlety. In the following year, Toy Biz's X-Men Classics was revamped, and so it seems was Wolverine's height. Something that always appealed to me about Wolverine was that he's traditionally depicted as a very short guy, the walking, talking epitome of it's not the size of the dog in the fight that counts, but the size of the fight in the dog. But as we see here with the later X-Men Classics, Wolverine inherited the generic superhero proportions. Sad, because heroism should be in the selflessness of your actions, not in being how big and tall you are. That criticism aside, let's now take a look at Airstrike Wolverine, who comes with a jetpack complete with a missile, which we place in here. And look, even the jetpack has claws on it. Then we have these two exhaust pipes. The right one fires the missile, and this left one pops the wings. So let's have Wolverine take to the air and strike. I do feel X-Men Classics was overshadowed by these kind of gimmicky play features and accessories, but if you are willing to overlook them, then while he is Airstrike Wolverine by name, the figure itself is in fact a rendition of Wolverine in his comic accurate House of M uniform, House of M being the reality and unhinged Scarlet Witch created, in which her father Magneto rules, served by an all-mutant shield including Wolverine in this very uniform. And the head sculpt is really good, with an impressively realistic skin tone, albeit he stole the Rock's people's eyebrow. Moving now from Airstrike Wolverine to Ninja Strike Wolverine. And as we have seen in these videos, this isn't the first time Toy Biz have capitalized on the ninja gimmick, and why not? It's worked all these years for the Ninja Turtles, and in the comics, Wolverine during his time in Japan mastered virtually all forms of martial arts, so it's not too big a stretch. Back in 1996, we got not just Ninja Wolverine, but a whole line of Ninja Force X-Men, and if you've already dismissed the X-Men Classics Ninja Strike Wolverine, then the flashback to the 1996 Ninja Wolverine might just make you cast a more positive light upon the X-Men Classics one. At the very least, it shows just how far the art of action figures evolved in the 9 years between the release of the two, and I guess ninjas with weapons are like chicks with shoes in that they can never have enough. And as a ninja, of course, we get the obligatory nunchucks, eat your heart out Michelangelo, plus we get this sword, which interestingly in the spirit of his claws is tri-bladed. And back then, if you like those, then maybe you'd be encouraged to splash a bit more cash on X-Men Classics Wolverine Extreme Mutant Chopper. Many a figure-vehicle combo come with the figure pretty much posed only to ride their vehicle, but here Toy Biz should be commended for supplying a surprisingly posable Wolverine figure that allows him to be posed to ride the bike, but then it pretty much stands alone as a figure unto itself, other than that is the hips being wider than they might otherwise be to accommodate him straddling the bike. When it comes to the action features, for the first one we need to press down on the handlebars. In case you missed that, here it is again in slow-mo. Yep, it shoots a telescopic missile from the headlight. And for those hot in pursuit of Wolverine, we push the chopper along to fire a second missile from the exhaust. And perhaps for when Wolverine's chopper is in the shop, he also comes with this mutant racer assault vehicle, and the figure here is a redecoed version of the first unmasked Wolverine we looked at. And honestly, I'm not sure Wolverine is the kind of guy to coordinate the colour of his costume to the colour of his car, but here they do match. Rounding out our look at X-Men Classics is Stealth Wolverine, which brings a lot less fun than his other X-Men Classics incarnations. Fairly certain this costume isn't from comic continuity, and it's just really quite generic, isn't it? So much so that Hasbro would later reuse it for its Marvel Legends 2-pack cable. Yep, that's right, in 2006, after a decade and a half of making Marvel action figures, the Marvel action figure license transferred from Toy Biz to Hasbro. So what better time to end this part than with the end of an era? Let's all show some appreciation to Toy Biz and their various efforts throughout the years to bring our favourite comic book characters to life in the form of action figures. Anyway, stay tuned for the next part when we'll be discussing the various ups and downs of the Hasbro era of Marvel action figures. So at the time I record this, the previous part of Wolverine Action Figure Evolution is currently sitting at 964 likes, and I thank each and every of you 964 people who took a second to like the video and show your appreciation for my efforts. But it would be great if we got this part to 1,000+ likes, and to do that, you know what to do. Like this video and share it on your social media of choice to give other people the opportunity to watch and like it themselves. Anyway, for more Action Figure Evolution, click the video on the right for one featuring Hulk's nemesis, the Abomination. Hope to see you next time. Bye.